All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us at Wonderful today. My name's Tanuja. I'll be your virtual host, and I'm excited for you to join us for our presentation today with Shahida. Um, this is called Unleashing Your Potential in the Global Job Search, Tips to Find Work Abroad. So let's begin. So just some information about your presenter, Shahida Foster. She's a creator of Black Girls Learn Languages, a multi-platform digital community for Black women who are passionate about languages, which currently serves around 10,000 members across multiple social media platforms. She's also a core organizer of the Sisters Only Language Summit, the first and only language summit for Black women in the language community. Her media appearances includes being featured in Travel Noir, Bronze Magazine, Off Magazine, and mentioned in Black Enterprise. In addition to managing her platform, she has also served as a two-time speaker at the annual Women in Language Conference and has appeared on a number of podcasts, um, including The Fluent Show and Fluent in 3 Months. So just some things about Wonderful itself here. You can follow us on Facebook or Instagram if you're not already. And if you'd like to keep in touch with Shahida, she has her own website, blackgirlslearnlanguages.com. And Instagram, she is at the handle Black Girls Learn Languages. And you can also follow her on YouTube and Facebook as well. All right, so some announcements for July, some need to know tidbits. There's always local events happening, so check out the local meetup directory for that. And if you haven't signed up already as a volunteer, it's a great way to become involved with Wonderful, and you can get some awesome perks as you're a part of the volunteer community as well. So events that are coming up, sorry, not in July, in August, I should say, is the Blogging Mastermind Circle with Amanda Walkins. And that's on August 17th. There's also an event on August 18th for solo travelers. It's a virtual meetup. And then we have our in-person meetup, Women in Travel Summit in Gdańsk, Poland in October from October 7th to 9th. So the last one's in person and the first two are virtual for those interested. And as you know, Wonderful supports many organizations. One is in particular is Women Supporting Women. A portion of your membership goes to a different travel organization each month, as I just mentioned. This month's beneficiary is I Am Not Alone, so make sure to visit them today at alternativeway.help and follow their Instagram at YIMDYN_foundation. And for every paid membership, Wonderful Scholarships goes to a woman in need. And we just like to thank our brands that come out and support us at Wonderful here. So this is just a list of them here. And now for your featured presentation. So I'm going to hand over the screen to Shahida and looking forward to getting started.
All righty. 1 second. I'm going to start sharing my screen. And okay, so can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Wonderful. All right, so today we're going to get into it, unleashing your potential in the global job search, tips to find work abroad. Maybe I need to get out of this. One second. Okay, so here's the agenda really quick. So first I'm gonna, well, she did a very great introduction, so I'll keep mine very short. Then we're gonna jump into the before you start the job search, a little house cleaning. Then we're gonna jump into who are you? So this is setting the premise for your resume and also imparting some resume tips. Then we're gonna move into looking at the job search with a new set of eyes. Then we're going to go into the mindset of the interview. And then the bonus is how to get international assignments if you're already in the company and you want to stay there, but you want to get assignments. So that's the agenda for today. Introduction. Basically, who am I and what is Black Girls Learn Languages? we already know about Black Girls Learn Languages because I got that really, really nice introduction. So we'll just go into me, who I am. So my name is Shahida. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. My language journey started as far back as I can remember. I was a toddler and we were living with my godfather. He was from Puerto Rico. So I started getting interested in languages very young. I've been to loads of countries. And I want to add more to the list. I don't know what the next one's going to be, but and the Netherlands, I forgot to list the Netherlands on there, but I don't know what the next one, but I do want to add more. Um, and then basically right now I'm managing Black Girls Learn Languages from Germany. I work as a PMO project coordinator, and I completed my master's in international management and information systems here in Germany. So that's a little bit about me, just so you can have an idea of who I am. So before we get started, basically, the first thing I want to say is be open to new information. So if you're not open to new information and you think you know everything, you may not be able to absorb anything from this. So definitely the first thing is be open to new information, which segues into unlearn what you think you know. So you may be confronted with some information that conflicts with what you've been taught or what you think you know already, and just be open for some new truths. The third thing is you need to be willing to fight for your life. This is literally your livelihood, right? So a lot of people, sometimes it gets overwhelming and they take a lazy approach. I know back in the day I did. I was like, oh, that's doing too much. I'm not doing all that. I'm just gonna, you literally have to fight for your life and do what it takes. You're worth the extra time, you're worth the extra effort, and you're worth the extra investment. Always know that when it comes to looking for another opportunity. And then that also leads into know that this takes time, energy, and most of all, patience. You need that. Everyone's going to see results differently. Some people may be able to, take the meat, leave the bones, and be able to find something in a week. Somebody may need a couple months, but just know it's going to take time, energy, and patience until you find your magic formula that works for you. So now we're going to go into who are you, your knowledge, your skills, and your abilities. So this is the part that's going to be, I think, the most intensive, right? First thing is first, you need to lead the job search with your unique skills. That is your competitive advantage, and that is what's going to set you apart from other candidates. I had a friend when I was trying to relocate here in Germany, and I was looking for a global opportunity, and I couldn't figure it out. And he, was a German friend. He said, well, what is it that you have that's going to set you apart from other candidates? Because that's what you need. And I was like, I don't have anything. And he was like, you're a native English speaker. And it didn't dawn on me that that would be a unique skill that would set me apart from everybody else in Germany that speaks English, that my native speaking skills would be a competitive advantage. So lead with that. And I also use that example so that you can know that competitive advantage does vary. It's relative. For example, if there's a new Japanese firm that opens in Omaha, Nebraska, and you know Japanese fluently, that makes it a competitive advantage in that region. Or for instance, in a certain industry, if there are some skills that are hard to come by that you have, that are in demand, for instance, some of them are certifiable and some of them are just unique by circumstance. So SAP, that's a skill that's not that easy to come by. It's not hard, but it's not easy. Or for instance, if you're a certified agile coach, or you have language skills, you have certification in languages, you have a PMP certification, so on and so forth. So if you have these things, that's going to be part of your competitive advantage. That's what I call your unique selling point. So that's what you need to lead with when you start the job search. The next thing you want to look at is your expertise. Where are you a subject matter expert? That's also something that's relative, because you could have 5 years experience in a certain position, a certain job function, and not be a subject matter expert because it's just so vast of the things that happen. Whereas you could be somewhere for 3 years, and because maybe you work for a company where that position, you wear 7 hats, right? So you learn so much in such a small amount of time that you become a subject matter expert. So These are the things you have extensive experience, and you can translate them well into other positions, or you can just advocate yourself as a subject matter expert. Sometimes that in itself is a unique skill. Sometimes being a subject matter expert is the competitive advantage. And then once you your level of, you know, you want to get into the knowledge level for different skills. So for instance, the industry, the hard skills, the soft skills, and you want to rate your level of experience. And assess your level of ability as well, because there are some skills that they ask for in the job description that are not necessarily, they're not hard to come by. Like there's something that you could either easily learn, or it's something that you don't need experience to learn how to do. So also assess your level of ability with that. And then there's also, and we're going to get into the matrix but before that, you want to get into your added bonuses. You don't lead with your added bonuses. You just include them. You just mention them. These are things that are not relative. They're not related to the job description, but they may help you. They may look good. For instance, let's say you're applying for a position that does not ask for any languages, but you mention your languages that you're fluent in. Like I had a position I had applied for. It was not a global position, it was just a regular position, but I listed the languages that I know and the varying degrees. And they called me back and they said, oh, hey, this Spanish looks really interesting. This is something we may have a need for. We may expand into Latin America, you know, so these are things you mention, but you don't necessarily need to emphasize because that's not what they're asking for. So then we're gonna go into the matrix now. This is kind of plotting all of this. 1 second. So this is an example of a skills assessment matrix. This is mine, actually. So this is the one that I did on myself a while ago. I updated it for the sake of this. But so I broke it down into job titles and functions, industries and functions, software. I put web development. You don't have to put that if you don't have any of those skills. I just put that in a separate section, your languages and your soft skills. I personally did this. I created this because I was frustrated. I was looking for opportunities, wasn't getting called back. I don't understand. I speak German. I have this experience. I want to, I was really frustrated. So I said, you know what? I've had enough of all these things these people are saying. I need to see something. So I decided to plot everything and just I broke it down to a granular level so that way I could see. And once I created this, and I would implore you guys, if you are looking for an opportunity, do this. Because when I saw all of this like this, I was like, oh, you can't tell me anything. Like I have a lot going on for me. So I think that everyone should do this if you can. So plot this out so that you can have a clear understanding. Okay, what are the job titles that I've had? For instance, these are all the job titles I've had at any point in my career. And then the industries that I've worked in. I worked in aviation, I worked in airline, I've worked in cosmetics, beauty. You know, I have, these are the different industries. And so basically, once I have that, that helped me understand, okay, I need to rewrite my resume because my resume I had before I plotted this, it was not showing this. It was not showing this at all. So if you go through and you make a matrix for yourself, then I would try to write the resume. So moving on to that, so writing the resume, these are the two things that I advise people to do, and I also do myself. The first thing I do is I use the Google format. I believe I found this on Inc.com, and it's a format that I think the Google hiring managers, they prefer to see, they suggest. So for instance, just to get into it, accomplished X as measured by Y by doing Z. And they put, this is one of the examples in the article, selected as one of 275 participants nationwide for this 12-month professional development program for high achieving diverse talent based on leadership potential and academic success. So just to further break it down, what did they accomplish? They accomplished being selected for this professional development program. How was it measured? So it was measured based on their leadership potential and their academic success. And what did they do to accomplish this? They were high achieving diverse talent. So basically, you can work backwards with that on the things that you've done when you go to write your resume. I've had clients ask me, okay, well, I can't do that because my tasks were really simple, or I didn't have metrics and there's no way to get the metrics and this and that. What do I do? Okay, if all else fails, I usually tell them paraphrase using the targeted job posting. So for instance, this is a real life example. I decided to make it real. So I was looking at a position and it says ensure dashboards are up to date and of the right quality for regular senior level meetings and review. So I thought about, okay, have I done anything similar to that? And I said, okay, well, I know I don't deal with dashboards, but I deal with scorecards, which I'm guessing are the same thing. They just call it a different thing. So I said, ensure scorecards are up to date and delivered to senior management for monthly board meetings, right? So that already implies that it's of quality. I don't have to actually put it the same. So I advise you, if you can't make the Google format work for you, either because the tasks are not, they don't work well with the kind of task you had, or you can't seem to figure out a way, then paraphrase using the targeted job posting. You cannot go wrong with that. So some additional tips. One, have 2 resumes and 2 cover letters. So when you do this, you want to have, and this is if you have language skills. If you don't have language skills, you can just have 1 resume, 1 cover letter. But let's say you speak Spanish, then you should have 1 in Spanish, one set in Spanish, and 1 in your native language, which we would say is English for this example. If you know 3 languages, then you'd have 1 in whatever the third language is. Let's say it's Chinese, you'd have 1 in Mandarin Chinese, 1 in English, 1 in whatever other language you know. And also make sure it follows the local format. Like for instance, Germany, that it's slightly different than what it is, even though it is changing, it is slightly different from what it is in the US, or like for instance, the UK, they tend to use CVs where we use resumes, and CV is supposed to like show comprehensive, like all the way back to like high school. I know some people like high school, but yeah. But it is changing. It is getting modernized to more like the US resumes. But keep in mind, keep it to the local cultural expectations if you're looking for a job in a certain region, and then make sure you have 1 if you have the language skills. If you don't have the language skills, leave it in English, it's fine. Also know, times are changing. This isn't your mom's HR. I can't tell you how many times I was in in an interview, and like the HR person was like 23 years old. And it's like, okay. So you have to realize whatever advice mom gave you or auntie gave you, that may not cut it anymore, because those type of formats and these type of information, that's not on trend anymore. A lot of times the young people, they want to see, because I'm not young, the young people, they want to see sometimes like a splash of color, and they want to see not anything crazy, but they want to see something that catches their attention. The plain black and white with the Times New Roman, that's not necessarily going to cut it anymore. There has to be something that says, hey, I'm with the times. So just keep in mind, someone may look at your resume, your cover letter, and they may be 24. So keep that in mind. And then lastly, you don't want to overload them. Like I was saying with the bonuses, you do want to mention it if you feel like it's worth mentioning. I wouldn't mention if you don't feel like, I mean, if it's not relevant, it's not necessary, but just don't overload them, because a lot of times, I know I've done this in the past. I had a client that I talked to, she also did it in the past, where she would put in, oh, they're going to be impressed by this and impressed by that. And it's like, what's going to impress them? Being the ideal candidate. That's what's going to impress them. It's not going to impress them necessarily that you won an award for something that has nothing to do with what they're doing. It may, you never know, but just err on the side of, stop overloading them with information. Present yourself as the ideal candidate, and then, add whatever tidbits you think might be helpful to your application. So I don't know. Do we want to take a breath? Because I feel like I've been talking, so I don't know. I just wanted to. I'm not in the chat, so Tanuja is looking at the chat for me. So I just want to. Everybody want to take a little.
I think so
Take a
far so
breath.
good. If you need a few minutes, we can. But if anyone has anything they'd like to add right now in the chat, they can.
Yeah, I just wanted to, because I feel like I'm talking at you. I know it's a presentation, but I just want to make sure you guys engaged and want to make sure.
So far so good. I think we're good to go if you'd like to.
We're good? Okay. So now that we have this information, we want to look at it with a new set of eyes. So basically, what you have to offer is their ideal that so who you are is their ideal candidate. So once you know what you have to offer, and you want to apply places where what you have to offer solves their problem. You're their ideal. You're exactly the person they've been looking for. And then you also want to know what you want. You want to have that focus, not just, oh, I want to work in marketing, but I mean work environment, the industry, the type of company. You want to know all of that. You want to be as laser focused as possible. So, for instance, the industry, do you want to work in a specific industry? Like, for instance, do you want to work in aviation? Do you want to work in software development? What industry do you want to work in? You can pick multiple industries, or if, you jumping to number 3, if there's a job type that can be found in multiple industries, that's also okay too. But you just want to, whatever you're doing, you want to make sure you're focused. You're absolutely focused and not just applying to everything you see just because it's in France or it's somewhere. You want to make sure like, okay, this is where I want to work. This is the industry I want to work in. The company size. Do you want to work in a smaller or medium-sized business? Do you want to work in a large corporation? Do you want to work for a global company? Because sometimes people don't want global opportunities. Sometimes they want multilingual opportunities. So opportunity locally, but they get to use their skills. Or sometimes they just want to work on a global team. Like they just want to be a part of the team that's located globally. And get that kind of interaction. So figure out, do you want to work in a company that's large, that's small, that's global, it's based in the US, but you're applying to a global location, or a global that's here. So once you know that, you can go on to the job type and the job functions, unless you skip to that already. Do you want to work in sales? Do you want to work in project management? Do you want to work in continuous process improvement? Do you want to work in research and development? Like, figure out which function you want to work in. And then also, this is very important, figure out your negotiables and your non-negotiables, because again, you're in the position of power. You apply for what you want and you don't have to take anything. So for instance, what's a must have? Like for instance, you may say, oh, I'm not taking anything that's less than 60K in Latvia, right? Just out of, and the company comes back, says, oh, okay, we can offer you 54K. And you're like, no, I've already did the cost of living estimate. I need at least 60K to be able to survive and save. And they can't meet that. You check it. Thank you, but your offer's on the floor. I mean, don't say that, but I'm just saying in your mind, like, thank you, but your offer's on the floor. No. So, that's an example of a non-negotiable that you have. Or for instance, commute time. You're like, I'm not going to take a job that's like, for me, when I was living in New York, I said, I'm not taking a job that's going to require me to get off the train and transfer to another train or another bus. If I can't get there on the 6th train, I'm not taking it. The end. I refuse to spend 2 hours transferring from train to bus. I'm not doing that. So, or you may say, I'm not going anywhere that's going to have me in the rush hour traffic. I'm not doing it. So if those are non-negotiables, have them and stick to them. Now, if you have your nice to haves, like for instance, if they say, oh, we can offer you 10% travel opportunity, and you don't really care whether you travel or not, you're like, oh, it's nice to travel. If I don't, it's okay. Then that's a negotiable and that's fine. It's nothing wrong with that. Just know that, just have a variable that, range that you're willing to, and stick to that. I think it's very important we make the list of non-negotiables and negotiables. I know years ago when I had a career coach, we went over this, and this is something I thought about in like relationships with, people that you build with, but I never thought about it. So that really changed the game for me, because that really made me feel like, oh, wow, this is really all up to me and I really can make things happen for myself. So just if you don't have your list of negotiables and non-negotiables, have them. Make sure it includes stuff like work environment. For instance, you don't want to deal with a work environment that's just hostile. You don't want to deal with, you know, a bunch of people very, very immature. You don't want to deal with certain things. So make sure that's also on there as well, because once you have your non-negotiables, you also know what questions to ask in the interview, because as cliche as it is, you are interviewing them as much as they are interviewing you. This is true. So now that we're looking with the new set of eyes, we know what our value is, our unique selling point is. We know what we want, what we don't want, what we're willing to bend on. So again, lead the job search with your unique skills, and then make note of the common denominator, because sometimes when you lead with your skill, multiple job titles will pop up. For example, with SAP, you could put SAP in, it's going to come up with purchasing, supply chain manager, customer service or service coordinator, buyer. So there's different positions that will pop up just because you type in SAP. So look at the common denominator of those. Sometimes if you type in project management, only certain things are going to come up: project coordinator, project lead, project manager, program manager. So if you already know, okay, these are similar roles, they're just, different hierarchy levels, then that's fine. But if you have something like a skill, like a software skill, something like that, different things will pop up. So note the common denominator, and then if you are the ideal candidate for that role. So if you decide, okay, you want to pursue that, then you want to make mention of these skills. So for instance, I use SAP because I use it. SAP, if you are leading the job search with SAP, right, and you apply for a job, make sure you adequately explain how you use or used SAP in your daily work, right? Make sure that that's in there. You don't want to just apply and then the only time you see SAP is all the way at the bottom where it's like software skills. Or for instance, if you are leading your job search because of your lingual abilities, like let's say you speak Japanese and they're looking for specifically a Japanese representative, Japanese speaking representative, you want to talk about your Japanese speaking ability. You don't want to talk about all these other things and then just at the bottom under the list where it says Spanish, Japanese, and English, you don't want to do that. So make sure it's pervasive throughout your resume. The next thing I want to say is you want to read the job description carefully. One of the YouTubers that I mentioned before, that's one of the things that really blew my mind, was the highlighting and the taking the time out. Definitely read that and look for emphasis. Sometimes they'll mention project manager or project management 3 times. And so that lets you know right there and then that's primarily what you're going to be doing. Or they might say client focused a lot. That means you're going to be dealing with customers. So pay attention to like if they're mentioning things. Also, they have a tendency to change these titles around because they know if there's certain titles, they don't have to pay you as much, right? So don't get caught up with the titles. Actually read the description and then decide, have I done this job already? Because for instance, I know somebody that was a customer, they were a service coordinator, and then they wanted to look at a position for assistant supervisor, and it was the same exact duties. They just named it different. So I was a service coordinator. I know somebody who wanted to. That's how I found out about that. But they do these things. So make sure you actually read the job description and then decide, have I done this before? And if you have done it before, you're overqualified, point blank, period. If you fulfill every bullet point, you're overqualified. That's it. You need to keep looking. According to TalentWorks, I was reading an article that said you should aim to meet 40 to 50% of the qualifications to improve your chances of getting a call back. Also, this also gives you the room to grow. There are people that get positions, they stay in those positions for 20 years, they love it, they enjoy it, they don't want to do anything different. That's fine. And they want to take the same position, at a global location or another location. And there's nothing wrong with that. So if you want to do that, that's fine. But if there's someone that has, they have a idea of how their career is supposed to progress and they have a strategy for that, then you definitely, the next position you take definitely has to have room for growth. You need to ask yourself, do you see yourself in this position for the next 2 to 5 years developing new skills? If you don't, at least 2 years. If you don't, you're overqualified. Like if you're gonna outgrow the position in 3 months, there's no need for you to apply. And that is part of the thing, one of the things that I've noticed employers are starting to ask, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? They ask that a lot because they want to know you're not just taking this job just to take it. You're taking it because you see it in the grand scheme of your career. Like you see this as part of your career progression, because what they don't want is someone to jump in and then, oh, I see another position, apply and leave. Now, don't get me wrong, there's opportunity to grow, and I'm not saying you shouldn't grow, but if your sole purpose of taking the position is just to jump ship in 3 months, we see something better within the company, I wouldn't do that, because you may not necessarily get an opportunity in 3 months and you don't want to find yourself wasting a year in something that you never really wanted to do anyway. So just go for what you want. Find the overlap between your knowledge, your skills, abilities. If there's no overlap, look at your experience and see, is it similar? Is it translatable? And then also, if you have that education, I say that because in some places it is a thing. Like I know here in Germany, they have where they offer you like a job seeker visa, but you have to have like a certain level of education and certain things to do the application. I think you have to have like at least a 4-year degree, or like if you want to get the EU blue card, you have to have, I think, at least a 4-year degree. So look at that when you're trying to find jobs, and looking at the requirements for certain type of visas, because sometimes that is in there. And then also, again, your negotiables. Does the job meet your requirements on your non-negotiables? If it doesn't, throw the whole job away. That's it. There's too many jobs. You don't have to bend yourself to get an opportunity. There's so much opportunity out there. You would be surprised. And some people think that there's not. I had to tell one client, I had a client just get one service, and I had to tell her, like, listen, you're not the only American that decided to go to this country and try to figure things out. So I'm sure the people that came before you, they were able to do it. You can do it too. And she found something. So she found something really good, actually. And so I say that to say, you don't have to, if it's not what you want, you don't have to take it. Also, I wanted to say, consider negotiating with them as well. Even if the job posting, for instance, says, oh, the range is 60 to 80K, but you currently make 70, right? You can go ahead and not apply. If you get so far in the process, however, and then they're like, oh, the range is 60 to 80K, and you're like, oh, I already, you're not telling them in your mind, you're like, oh, I already get 85, but this isn't going to work for me. You can decide to negotiate some of these points. I personally had an experience where headhunter contacted me for a position and was already out the gate like, oh, we're only going to do X amount of money. That's the max of our budget. And I said, well, that's less than half than what I get paid now. Thank you. Have a nice day. And then they came back to me, was like, oh, no, we really want you. We can do this amount. And it was like, I want to say, I think it was like, and the end of the day, it was like 10,000 more than what I'm making now. So they do it for who they want to do it for. If you want to negotiate, just keep that in mind. If you don't want to, you're free to walk away. So now we're going to get into just some stuff with the interview. So the first thing is just to get your mind frame into the interview. Do you fully understand the position and the requirements? Because you should be able to read it. If this is something you're really interested in, you should be able to read it and say, oh, they're looking for a person that does X, Y, Z, has this kind of, they either have a bachelor's degree in this. Like, you should be able to say, okay, this is who they're looking for, and that's me, right? And if it's not exactly you, you should be able to say, for the most part, that's me. And I can learn X, Y, and Z, but that's me, right? And just know, these are the questions, that's the point of reference they're using when they ask you these questions. Oh, what are your weaknesses? And we're going to get to that. What are your strengths? Or why do you want to apply for this position? These are all just opportunities for you to relate the fact that I understand who you're looking for, and that's me. Just always keep that in mind before you answer any of their questions. The second thing is, do you understand their mindset? Because culturally, things are different. Like, for instance, I noticed that here in Germany, people are like very process oriented. In the US, we're very results oriented. You have to understand, do they value systematic ways of thinking, or do they value creativity? You have to understand the culture when you're interviewing so that you can also keep this in mind when they ask you questions. And so you can answer those questions based on that perspective. Another thing is the interview in your native language or in your target language? If it's in your target language, do you know what the most commonly asked questions sound like in the target language? I would implore you, the level of preparation you would make in your native language, do that same thing in the target language. And this is if you have language skills. If you don't, that's fine. But just keep in mind, when you're in the native language and the interviewer that's not their native language, there may be some things lost in translation. That's why it's very important you understand their mindset, because they may say some things that sound off. But if you know, oh, okay, they're process oriented, or oh, okay, they're very direct, they don't or they have a high context culture, so there's hidden meanings, like one thing may have three meanings, then that kind of helps you. But if you don't have language skills, it also helps if you do. But if you have language skills, then I would suggest you Google, YouTube some mock interviews in your target language so you can kind of get a feel for what type of answers are the best answers, what they sound like. Pro tip, maybe not so pro, don't ask to switch to your native language, let them offer. So if they offer like, hey, would you like to do the interview in whatever your native language is? And you can say yes or no, it's up to you. I personally think if you say, hey, I don't mind, I'd be more comfortable, but I also don't mind. I think that also shows your willingness to show, and they may opt to just do it in your native language, because sometimes they want to flex their English skills or whatever the native language is. So just don't ask, let them offer. The next thing, did you know that the interviewer might be more nervous than you? I say this because I took part in an interview as a part of the HR panel interviewing for a position, and I was nervous. I was so nervous, and I was thinking to myself, I know these other guys are nervous too. They're seasoned vets, so they're not as nervous as I am. But yeah, the interview is nervous. So I think if you realize that they are nervous and realize maybe some of the things they say or do may be out of nerves, even though you're the one that's really nervous, I think that helps, especially if the interviewer is interviewing and it's not their native language. So if they're interviewing you in English, but their native language is like French, just know there's going to be a level of anxiety, a little level of angst that they have. And that might make you feel a little bit more at ease if you know that. And the last thing, these run-of-the-mill questions. Do you know your strengths and your weaknesses? You need to know this, because I think every interview I've had since I've been in Germany has asked me this. And I'm pretty sure this is something that they're asking in France and other places too, because it's just one of those run-of-the-mill questions. But it's how you answer it that makes all the difference. One of the things I can tell you in the US and Germany and other places, they're sick of the fake weaknesses. So don't do the whole, I'm a perfectionist. I mean, I'm a Virgo, I am a perfectionist, but at the same time, they don't want to hear that. Or, oh, I'm so impatient, I just have to get the job done as soon as possible. Like, these fake ones don't. They want to see, like, basically how they want to see that you don't think you're perfect and that you're working on whatever it is. But always pick a weakness that's not directly related to the job. It will not affect your job. A professional weakness, or something that was a problem, but you improved it. So here we go, the global assignments. This is for people who already in the company. You're like, hey, I'm not looking for a job. I just want an opportunity with my current company that's a global company. Now, this isn't going to work necessarily if you have a company and it's like they only have one station and it's in where they are right now. This may not work. One of the things I would say, the first thing is connect with others who are currently on global assignments at your company or finish them. And you have an informational interview just to decide if that's something you want to do, because you may think, oh, I want to do this with this company, and then find out you have to go through hell and high water just to get over there. And it may be easier for you to just find a new opportunity elsewhere than to do it with your company. So the first thing I would say, find someone who's at your company who's done it or who is currently doing it, and ask them their experience with the transition. Also, once you've decided, okay, their experience sounds good, doesn't sound like too much, doesn't sound like too many hoops, make it known to your direct leadership and to HR that you're open to a global assignment and ask for information. One of the things I overhear managers saying all the time when it comes to people upset about promotions or this and that, getting assigned this, getting assigned that, one of the things I always overhear them when they're complaining is, well, how was I supposed to know that this person wanted it? They never said anything. I thought they were happy where they were. So you have to make it known. They are not mind readers. So make it known to them, hey, I noticed that you guys have a global exchange program. What's that about? I think I might want to do that. Find out from HR and then gauge their response. If they're like very forthcoming, oh yeah, this is what it is. And they let you know, I don't know if we have ability for you to do that in this department, but if you apply for this at that department, I know this department is constantly doing it. Like if they seem supportive and they seem positive, then I would proceed. But if they're very gatekeeperish, like, oh no, you can't do that, that's only for certain positions or certain this or certain that, and they just seem very gatekeeping like, then in that case, me personally, I would just find another company. And that's exactly what I did. I had an experience with a company like that. They were very gatekeeperish. So I just hopped on to another company who had the opportunity and they made it available for me. I know it sounds easier said than done, but honestly, life is too short. There's too much opportunity out there for you to be thinking like, oh, well, I don't want to jeopardize my livelihood. Well, you're not really jeopardizing your livelihood if you go to another company that has that. And that's something you can find out during the interview process as well. So I would create a strategy once you've gotten that positive feedback. Once you've gotten that feedback, create a plan, make sure it's very detailed, make sure you have milestones and steps. I kind of want to say milestone and gates, but that's the project management in me. So you can have different steps and different milestones, and basically getting towards your end goal, the global assignment. You can have a time frame if you want to. Your time frame could be 9 months. Your time frame could be a year, or what have you. It could be 1 month, whatever your time frame is, and make sure that the first thing, you get on the radar of the decision makers who are usually 2 levels above your manager or your supervisor. Yes, it's great when your supervisor can go to bat for you, but it's even better when the decision makers already know you, like you, trust you, and they can make the decision for themselves without your supervisor having to go to bat for you. Because if it boils down to your supervisor going to bat for you and they don't know you and someone they already know, like, and trust, they're going to choose that person. So make sure you're on the radar. Whatever it is you need to do, your organization best how to do that. The second thing, I would definitely keep the global skills up to date. So if you've had experience on working on global teams, you've had experience working in other locations, or you have language experience, whatever the case may be, keep that up to date, sharpen those, and use them whenever possible. So if they ask you, for instance, oh, hey, we need help on this project, because it happens, even in a company that's not necessarily global, you'd be surprised. People say, hey, I had the experience, I overheard my manager talking about how they're now responsible for the French speaking region. They don't have anyone in the team that speaks French. They keep getting correspondence in French. What are they supposed to do? So my French is rusty, so I was not able to take that opportunity. But I'm just saying, if my French skills were on point like they used to be, I would have definitely, hey, I would love to help out with this. So and that's not something I saw coming, because we're not even like, this is not, we don't handle French speaking. So if this is just an example of using them whenever possible. I'm not saying take on everything they throw at you, but I am saying, make sure you have an opportunity to do it. And even better, if it's in the line of sight of the decision makers, even better. Make sure you fulfill all the requirements professionally, academically, because like I was saying, sometimes with certain visas, to get certain visas, you need to have certain education, or you have to fulfill certain requirements. So make sure you fulfill all the requirements. And then also prep yourself personally, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially for the move. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, right? That's what they always say. So, and then lastly, ear hustle. That helped me so much. That's helped a lot of people. Ear hustle as much as you can. You'd be surprised what people let slip when they don't think that you're listening, or they don't think that like it's important whether you find that out or not. So ear hustle as much as you can. And if you ever overhear anything that's valuable to your plan, take note of that, adjust your plan accordingly. So last but not least, coaching is now available. I was on hiatus for like a year, but now I'm back, and I wanted to offer promotional rate to She's Wonderful. So the members and the attendees. So basically, a la carte session, if you just want one session, and that's like, for instance, a mindset session. I've had a resume writing session with one client. I had a job search session with another client. And then those are going to be for She's Wonderful members and event attendees. That will be $149 until August 31st. If you mention the code BGLL and Wonderful. The coaching program, which is 5 sessions, 60 minutes, that's going to be $399. So basically, that's probably like, if you don't even know where to start, you're like, listen, I don't have any idea. I need basically you to hold my hand and help me figure this all out, because it's too much. It's $399, which is a really good deal. So that's basically where we're at right now. So if you're interested, you can contact me, any of the socials that she mentioned. And this is what we're offering. Again, it's valid until August 31st. After that, if you have that code, you have to have that code. If you don't have the code, it will be the regular prices. If you have the code and it's before August 31st, then those will be the prices. And I just want to thank you for your attention. Again, so this is my website, blackgirlslearnlanguages.co, not .com, because it will redirect you to .co. I thought it was modern, so I just did .co. And then my IG, also my email if you want to send me an email. But that's pretty much the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to any and all questions you have regarding the presentation.
Thank you. That was wonderful, Shahida. I really benefited from it myself. I know that being a digital nomad is something that, a lot of people are striving for in this time and day and age. And these tips were super detailed, which was really appreciated and straightforward. As mentioned, this is a time for questions. If anyone has any, feel free to drop it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask right away. I'll start with a question, actually. So, when you first started working abroad, what was the first thing, I guess, that you did, and like what um, was kind of like a learning curve for you for that first assignment?
So the first assignment I did, I got lucky. It was just basically the same thing I was doing back home. It was just, I was basically working a business to business customer service for a pharmaceutical tech company. And the learning curve was just the work ethic, the work culture, and the culture itself. It was really, really hard to adjust, because like I was saying, I found out the hard way, they're very process oriented. In the States, we're very results oriented. If you can cut corners and get the results quicker, the same results, we're all for it. Here, it's like if you break from the process, you killed somebody. It's a big thing. Like I know one time they made me feel like I killed somebody because I deviated from the process and I couldn't understand why. So that's just the culture. So that's why I'm like, know that going in, because it is an adjusting period. It's a rough ride, but you'll get there where you'll know, oh, okay, this is how it is.
To really know your audience. That's really like the audience of who you're working for, I mean. Okay, so wonderful presentation. If anyone has questions, people are saying that the presentation is very informative, and access to the recording should be available. After the presentation, it will be recorded, and there should be a link that will be available for those who are registered. So it should come to you as an email reminder, but if you don't get that, you can email us and at Wonderful, and we can coordinate that for you. But you should get an automatic email for that.
I see two questions in the chat. I took a peek because I was
Right
nosy.
now, I'm not sure if I missed the one before. Is there one before? I see one.
Yeah, from Sarah Hats, and then I think one just came in from Urban Girl.
So let's go to Sarah's first. Sorry about that, Sarah. I'm just trying to go up. Oh, okay. As a candidate, if I'm looking to fulfill 40 to 50% of the qualifications in a position I can grow into, then how many of the qualifications for a position is the company expecting you to have?
This varies, and the thing is, you will never know unless you're the person filling the position. Because, like the company I work for, and I've seen so much behind the scenes. I've been so blessed to be able to see hiring managers having discussions about candidates before they go in an interview, being part of interviews and stuff. So the thing is, you kind of don't really know. Based on what I've seen, I would say that if it's a position that doesn't require you to have certifiable skills like that, like for instance, it's not like software engineering or something like that, I would say, or actually, let me just say it like this. The company expects you to have the certifiable skills, those skills that you can prove, everything else that's like, you get on the job experience or something like that, like they're asking you to have experience with something, or they're asking you to have knowledge of something or be familiar with something. That's not something you necessarily need to have mastered. So I would just focus on, if they're asking for certain hard skills, knowing that, being secure in that. And then if they're asking for like soft skills or experience, not necessarily, then those are the things that I would say I don't necessarily think they may expect you to come with. I think they expect you to come with stuff that, like the hard skills that you should have already learned either in school or via some kind of certificate program or something like that. I think those are the things they're expecting you to have.
A great answer, and it goes to your point in the beginning about being able to stand out as well, right? Like everyone required to have those hard skills, but it's good to also have those things that kind of set you apart. That's a great question. So the next question, Urban Girl in LA. I've just began my remote job search, and I've noticed jobs are usually remote to a specific state in the US. Any tip on where to search?
Um, just to get clarification, so you want a remote job in the US? Which is fine. I just want to make sure, or you want a remote job with a company that's based in the US, but I just want to make sure I'm understanding. Can you clarify that, Urban Girl?
So it's not.
Oh, okay. Okay. You want a global job that's based in the US. I don't have a specific state that I would suggest looking in. I would just lead with that. So for instance, if you want to be, let's say you want to work in research and development, but you want to, well, we'll say marketing. You want to work in marketing, but you want to be based in, I don't know, Estonia. I'm just pulling something out there. I know somebody who used to live in Estonia. They did that. Wait, I'm currently based in Madrid as an English teacher, but my background is in HR. Okay, I see. So you want to work in HR, but okay, for instance, like the company I work for, they have global HR. So they have HR sitting everywhere. They have HR. So I would look, first of all, I would look for a global company and a company that's also a matrix organization. I find I've worked in those before. I think this is like my third matrix organization. Global companies that are matrix organizations, they often have like global centers, right? So like they might have a global center of excellence that's like their global training where all the different sites go to that center. So it's like the point of truth in getting training on, all things about the company. So I would try to see not so much in the US, specifically in a state, but I would try to find a company position with a company that's global. And they also mentioned that they're a matrix organization because you might be able to get a position in HR either in the US somewhere, or you may be able to sit somewhere else because it's global and they don't have like a central location. I hope, does that answer their question? Is that helpful? Okay, she said thanks.
Wonderful. Does anyone have any further questions?
Now I'm sniffling. Excuse me.
Quite a lot of information, so um,
And also, you guys are welcome to reach out to me, like just to talk, like
yeah. So
about anything. It doesn't have to be anything.
I put the details of your social links on the screen. I hope everyone can see that, along with
Mhm.
Wonderfuls as well. So another thing is your codes. I was going to suggest if you can put that in the comment section of the events as well. I think that would be a great way for people to be able to use it if they'd like to.
All
Um,
right.
so it's of the main event link. I think there's a section for comments there as well in case anyone wants to reach out to that again. But yeah, this was a wonderful presentation. I really enjoyed it. If no one has any further questions, you can reach out to Shahida at her socials here on her website or Instagram or YouTube or Facebook. But yeah, it was wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, definitely taking some tidbits from this myself.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, then. So, with that said, I will thank everyone for joining us and see you in the members portal. Have a good day, everybody.
See ya. Bye.